everyone, welcome back to the Creative Shelf, and you are joining me on a cold, damp evening in Brussels. But just as the sun is setting, I thought I would squeeze in this video because I realized, already at the end of 2021 that I haven't done a video which looks at decks that I've actually read with and used in 2021. And then with Vlogmas and everything going on, I just decided to take a break afterwards. So I thought this would be a nice little short video to do on a Saturday evening. So yes, you're joining me for a video response to Nina of Shuffle Tarot. Oh my god, I haven't done videos for like 2 weeks and it feels like I've kind of like lost the momentum. But anyway, I'm doing a VR to Nina of Shuffle Tarot, and it's kind of like my top 10 reading decks. But there might be some honorary mentions because I don't know if I've squeezed in like everything into 10. I don't think I have. And then, like there's a lot of other tags out there like top reading decks of 2021 or best decks of 2020, whatever, you get it, right? Anyway, the distinction is that this is tarot only. I will be doing a separate oracle thing because yeah, it was just going to be easier. So without further ado, I'm going to get on with it. And yeah, so let me start from the top of the year. So January was a bit of a weird month. Basically, I was using a tarot deck, but I really wasn't gelling with it. I wasn't focused on it. The end of the month was really difficult. So the first couple of months of the year, to be quite honest with you, were a bit of a wash. I had professional stuff going on, and on top of that, I had a death in my family. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, but like the first part of 2021 was a bit like already in hell. So anyway, coming into the spring and coming out of that horrible long lockdown, the deck that I worked with, I think it was already March or April. It was April. So let me go into April, and that was the Herbcrafter's Tarot. Now you've seen this on my channel quite a bit. It's a deck that I absolutely love and adore. It's mass market, produced by US Games. The authors slash artists are Joanna Powell-Colbert and written by Letitia Guthrie. And of course, this is the sister deck to the Gaian Tarot, which I've never used. I've actually bought it, but I still haven't used it. I bought it at the end of last year, actually. But anyway, I bought this deck and I absolutely fell in love with this. So this was the deck that I used in April. I didn't do a roundup of it. I think my head was just all over the place, to be quite honest with you, and this deck was just so soothing, so comforting after a very rough beginning to the year. And yeah, and I just absolutely like it. If you want something that's soothing, that connects you with plants, connects you with that very, I don't know how to put it, but natural energy, the healing energy and the soothing energy of certain elements from our natural world, herbs as well, this is the deck for you. And I found this to be perfect for me coming into spring because it was light and it was fresh and it was just beautiful to look at, and there was no to be honest with you, there was no people in it, and that was fantastic because I just wasn't in a very good space, and I needed something to start. I don't know how to put it, but when we go through very difficult periods in our life, as we all know, there's a sense of loss, of hope, of am I coming out of this? And this deck was just so gentle and soothing and nurturing. It is also part of my top 10 favorite decks, and I think it's going to be there again hopefully this year because I don't see how I can be without this deck. Now it's a mass market deck, but I was joking with another tarot tuber that if it had been indie or whatever, like, it's one of those decks that if I was running out of the building, like, with a burning building, I would definitely have this under my arm. It is just so wonderful and beautiful, and it's a treasure, and it's a shame because not so many people talk about it, and I think it's kind of like one of those decks that can be classified as kind of like, a deck that's underestimated or just flies under the radar, and then somebody picks it up and then they realize just how gorgeous and beautiful it is. One of the best things about this deck, of course, apart from the images, which are gorgeous, is of course the guidebook is absolutely amazing, very well thought through and written. And I really give kudos that this was not just shoved together to, I don't know how else to put it, but sometimes I feel decks are just made just to sell while this deck was really well thought through. So I give a lot of credit to the producers of this deck. Okay, so that was April. Now I'm trying to get my memory right. I can't remember if it was May or June. I think it was, now I recall. I think it was, let me get this right. I just need to put these to the side for a second and not drop them because there's a lot going on here. I think it was May when I decided to work with the Spirit Song. So this is again one that I haven't done a review of, so I might be coming back to this deck again this year. It is of course a Paulina Cassidy deck. Paulina Cassidy is one of my favorites because of course the Paulina Tarot, is one of my first tarot decks. So that's the deck that I've really just cut my teeth on in terms of, apart from the classic Rider-Waite-Smith. And this is now Spirit Song. Now this is a beautiful animal deck, and I personally find this functions really, really well as an oracle deck as well. One of the things that I really love about this deck is there used to be a tarot tuber who actually did readings, monthly readings, and I think her name was Temperate Star or something like that. Now I don't think she does readings anymore, but her readings were absolutely so spot on, so perfect, and she used this deck. So, you know, part of buying this deck was also a homage to her because I miss her actually. She's a beautiful, beautiful reader, and her accent is gorgeous. I don't know what part of North America she's from, but beautiful to listen to, and she used this deck. So this was partially a homage to her. I bought this, partially a homage of course to Paulina Cassidy, who I love. I think she does absolutely gorgeous and stunning decks. I have gone and got the Phantasma as well, which I haven't worked with yet. But anyway, I bought this deck, and again, this was, I think, my May deck, and this was just so good for me to just really work with. This was when I started to really do tarot journaling as well. So, you know, this was when I was trying to photocopy cards and cut them out and then draw them, and, you know, all the experimentation we do with tarot journaling and just finding my way. But I did start to really connect with this deck, and I found that it was helpful for me not to pull too many cards at the same time because they're so rich in their message. So this is really a great deck if you just want to do one card a day pull. Beautiful in that sense. Of course, the actual imagery and the artwork is just, I don't know how else to put it, delicious. I don't know how else to put it, like just these fine pastel-y colors, but the energy of the animal really comes through. And again, you know, I really liked the guidebook. It was short and succinct, but it gave me everything that I needed. And you know, if I want to step into a magical world, I just need a Paulina Cassidy deck, and the Spirit Song was perfect for that. And it was great for May because we were really coming into this summer energy, and I do work with decks according to the seasons. I live in Belgium, you know, we do have all 4 seasons, and I like to make use of the light and the colors that we have blooming in the spring and summer because, you know, they are, you know, it's just a couple of seasons, right? And then we go into autumn and it all retreats back into the branches and the trees, which is currently where we're at. And so when we are in those kind of like months where the light is different, where the sun's energy is very strong, my favorite months of the year, to be quite honest with you, I am born in the autumn, which means the mid-heavens are my springtime, and that's when really, you know, like it's almost like, you know, I come out of my Hades world and I take on that spring energy at that moment. And so for me, the springtime is just, yeah, it's my favorite time of the year. And actually I really like kind of like as we go into February, because I already have the anticipation of spring coming. So anyway, that's the best way I can describe it. So without further ado, let me go into June, and June was the Dreaming Way Tarot. Ooh, the other way around, the Dreaming Way Tarot. Now this is a deck by Rome Choi. I understand it was produced when he was experiencing kind of like, you know, certain dreams and so forth, and going into this kind of like energy. I really, really loved this deck. And again, it's another deck that I don't hear too much about. Maybe because also it's quite old. I mean, you know, some of these decks are from the past, but I picked them up because they were hidden gems, basically. And this is another US Games mass market deck. I've left it intact, and I actually quite like it intact. I don't want to take the borders off. I think it frames the deck pretty well. I really enjoy these colors. Now we've gone from those muted tones. It's interesting, right? We've gone from these slightly more muted tones of the pastels of the Paulina Faye deck, and now we've gone into these more, I don't know how to say it, saturated pastels, I guess. I love the artwork, but of course I love even more the costumes, the patterns that are used. This is a great deck if you like fashion design. If you like fashion, this deck is just really reminiscent of those kind of like very quirky, sometimes avant-garde, sometimes more, you know, the Renaissance. It goes through like periods of history when it comes to the clothing, which I want to keep calling costumes because that's what it feels like even more. And it really can show how certain lines and certain corsets and robes, how they developed over time, and they're still part of fashion today. So I really love this deck because it's really mixing together contemporary fashion design with the more avant-garde a la mode. And yeah, and I just thought it was very well done. The art is of course superior quality as well. I don't know how else to put it. It's just, yeah, this is an amazing artist. So I need to check actually, sorry, as I go on, who is the art by? Is it by the same pastel? Oh, illustrated by Quan Sheena. So I should be really careful there. It's actually, the illustrator is Quan Sheena. So yes, so a gorgeous deck. I think it's from 2010 or something like this, really a long time ago. So I think that it's a deck that these days may not always be so popular, but you know, it's a small little guidebook, but it does the job. You can always use it in conjunction with one of the more larger guidebooks, you know, that you have in your shelf. By now, all of us probably have several of those kind of guidebooks, but this deck just reads really clearly as well. I mean, this Seven of Cups, I always appreciate it when an artist takes the time to, you know, like the Seven of Cups, I've seen so many rushed jobs where it's just 7 cups, and I'm always a bit disappointed. I am a Scorpio sun, so I will want to see good 5, 6, 7 of cups, basically. And 7 cups always kind of like, you know, it's an opportunity to show, right, the path of the Fool at certain points in the journey of the major arcana in this minor card. And still, you know, some people don't do that. They just think, we'll just put 7 cups and 7 choices on there, not realizing that there is so much depth within this one card. So, yeah, yeah, I've just really loved this deck in terms of its colors, its artwork, its attention to detail, and the flow of energy and the lightness it brings. It's a great spring-summer deck. Okay, so that was May. Moving swiftly on to, or was that June? Sorry, that was June. Moving swiftly on to, yeah, it was July. It was July. So let me now go on to, what did I use? And that was, oh, the other way around again, the Greenwich Tarot, one of these large Llewellyn box decks. Now, I picked up this deck because I saw Dawn Michelle of Boho Tarot do a video on the Everyday Witch deck. And I picked this up because she was worried that she would be duplicating energies, but then they didn't, and I needed to go the other way basically. So I already had the Everyday Witch, and I wasn't hesitating buying the Greenwich. Strangely, I had actually bought the Greenwich Tarot in the summer of 2020. Something went wrong with the order. My money got reimbursed, but I never bought it again. And so it was really strange that then, sorry, it's the summer of, yeah. So then in 2021, I finally went and bought it. I don't know if I'm making sense, actually. You get the point, basically. I got, and the other thing is that Kiri Ostergaard-Lenore, she is the artist of this deck, has actually done a YouTube video on creating the deck and working with Anne Mura. And I really loved that video. I'd seen it like a few years ago and it had really impressed me. So what was really interesting was her take on producing 78 cards in such a short amount of time, and it really made me appreciate the whole journey of creating a tarot deck, to be quite honest with you. So these are the backs, and of course these are the cards. It's a very popular deck. I think it's from 2015 originally. A Llewellyn deck, mass market. and it comes with a guidebook which has extensive information on the herbs used and the fruit used, and I just love that. The flora and the fauna in each card and why they were chosen. So I think it was thought through, and I appreciate that whenever I see that in a deck. I think the images are very clear. It's a Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's just a very easy reader. I enjoyed it immensely. I enjoyed just the gentleness of it, and this was my deck to use in July, and it was perfect because, of course, you know, having had that rough start of the year, and still, you know, when we go through really traumatic things, sometimes I say that as I'm holding up the tower, but as we go through like really traumatic things in our lives, you know, sometimes some people like, oh, let's work with dark decks, and you know, and sometimes for me, when I'm looking at some really traumatic things, I don't need imagery so far that is jarring, because I've got a lot of jarring emotions going on within. I don't need to layer that with more jarring emotions. I'm someone that's very much in tune with what's happening at that moment. I don't know how else to put it. And so for me, sometimes I need clarity. I just need images which are very simple and easy to read, because I'm more reading in between the lines. I'm more reading in between the cards. I'm reading the flow. I'm reading sometimes, oh, that card popped up on a Tuesday, and then 2 weeks later I'm seeing that card, you know, from another deck in this. Like I'm more trying to, you know, I'm more kind of like in that flow of energy of seeing that sometimes, and I don't want heavy art. That doesn't mean I don't like dark decks or shadowy decks or however you want to put them, but yeah, when I was going through like that last year, 2021, like sometimes it was just like, I don't want confusion. I don't know how else to put it. I just didn't want confusion. I wanted soothing clarity, and just how can we quell what was a rough sea at that time. So yeah, so these are beautiful cards, and again, I think this is a great all year round deck, but of course, you know, if you're looking for something for spring and summer, it's perfect. I love the greeniness of it, and I think I mentioned this in my top 10 decks, that this deck, whenever I have issues around abundance, it's the Green Witch, right? It's the Green Witch Tarot, and I picked this deck up, and it's a really clear issue around abundance. Now, you know, abundance, of course, when it's love, when it's friendship, when it's self-caring energy, but also great when it's like finances and work and all those kind of things. So I don't know how else to put it, but this is a really good pentacle-oriented, earthy-oriented deck. I'm a Virgo rising, so it just really taps into my rising sign. Okay, so that was the Green Witch Tarot. We're moving swiftly on to August. August was an interesting month. I had a little bit of a disaster with the Chrysalis Tarot. Again, me and the Chrysalis are just not working out. It is one of my first tarot decks, but 6 years on, we're still not bonding. So I had already gone out and bought a deck as kind of like, I don't know, like one of those impromptu buys, which I don't do so much, but it was one of those buys. And I decided to make that my August deck, which is the Tarot of the Golden Wheel. Now, again, I see a theme emerging even within myself. I love these aquas, these pastels, these lovely, beautiful, gentle yellows and oranges and pinks. And yeah, drop that, hold on a second. So this is produced by Mila Losenko, and I bought this deck because I really loved the art in it. There's no other way to put it. It is Slavic based, so you know, you are not going to see much diversity, but it is congruent to a certain kind of like theme, basically, in that sense, and culture. I found the art was what mesmerized me. And again, a very clear, easy reader. You see the storm front coming through. I mean, just the watercolor, the artist, her command of the watercolor is just unbelievable. And yeah, I remember seeing this Six of Cups, and it made me well up when I saw it, because I was kind of like missing. I think this is, you know, still going back to remembering times that have passed, and 2021 has had a lot of that off and on, and this some of these cards were just really helpful in me processing that. And I love how the artist has really used the colors to tap into the suits. You know, I saw a lot of that when it came to the wands, and then when it came to, I'll show you some of the, I mean, look at that Three of Swords, but let me show, look at the sky there, but let me show you some of the cups, because oh, I loved, I don't know what tree that is, but I love the leaves and that falling feeling. You know, it's just so tapping into that watery energy. We have some lilac style kind of like colors coming through here. But yeah, I just really like this deck. It's a really, really clear reader. It reminds me of fairy tales. It reminds me of like stories of when I was young and opening books. And again, it was just a non-fussy deck. I mean, what else can I want? So I actually really enjoyed this deck, and I'm going to revisit it this summer for sure, because I think I'm going to get a lot more out of it. And yeah, so this was one of my reading decks again, and this was August. Right, so moving swiftly on. Oh wow, there's a lot going on here. Okay, so what's the next one? The next one is, so we're going into September. I was just thinking, what was the next month? September. So the next month is The Everyday Witch, of course. Oh, the other way around. Keep doing this. The Everyday Witch by Deborah Blake, art by Elizabeth Alba. One of my favorite decks of all time. Again, it comes with a large Llewellyn, it's a large Llewellyn box deck, so it will come with a fully comprehensive guidebook. I mean, these are the backs, and this is a very popular deck. I bought this in December 2020, and I used it in September 2021. So yes, so before I forget, just to be very clear, these are not decks that I necessarily bought in 2021, nor of course are they published in 2021, but these are the ones that I used basically last year. So yeah, this is a deck which I love. My inner younger teenage puberty, pre-puberty self just loves this deck. And I've spoken about this on the channel before. I think that's a really difficult period of my life. So this deck has just been amazing in helping me process some of the stuff from that period of my life. But I just like this because I feel like it's a best friend, and there's no other way to put it. This deck is like my BFF. So I kind of like sometimes get this deck out for really interesting readings. The reading for my Wheel of the Year for the beginning of this year, interesting, is from this deck. So yeah, that's an interesting thing, right? Like when I go into big heavy readings for myself, I can see myself going back to decks that are for me friendly to my energy, because I need the clarity of the reading. And it's not always that they're friendly, but how can I put it? They're decks that I feel like they work with me. You know, they're not there to confuse me. They work with me, and they're like, okay, this is it. And you know, when I did my Wheel of the Year reading, it wasn't all kind of like, you know, I don't know how to put it, bunnies and butterflies or something. When I did my Wheel of the Year reading, some of it was like, not sure how that's going to turn out. But this deck was just really good at conveying messages in a clear way, and not in a scary manner, but rather just kind of like, here's the lay of the land. And I was like, okay. And of course, I've said this so many times, but the best bit of this deck is it's little. Where is she now? Oh, she's hiding here. You can't see her too well. It's a little cat companion in every card. Oh my God, this deck. I mean, just. And as you know, I have a little fairy beast of my own. And yeah, he's a witch's black cat. Basically, that's what I have, a witch's black cat. And so, you know, for me with these cards, like, I mean, look at this one, you know, Ten of Swords, and he's reaching for that broom, and you can see the cat is just scaring away anyone, you know, like, just, you know, this is Temperance, right? Meditating, and look, he's doing his own little meditation. He's giving himself a wash, you know. So and this card, I mean, she's lost all of her, you know, she feels sad. She feels like I've lost everything, and this cat is sitting there eyeing up the lobster. I mean, just I love the wit in this deck. I don't know how else to put it. It's witty, it's charming. It plays on kind of like, you know, Are you really seeing everything? Have you really taken account of everything? That's what it says to me. Like, look at the bigger picture. You know, just, so here is the Queen of Cups, which is a Scorpio. There's a bit of Queen of Cups in me, of course. And the cat's sitting on the throne, you know, just love it. Yeah. And I applaud the artist. I applaud Elizabeth Alba, because she's done a fantastic job with this deck. Let me get you one of my favorite cards of this deck. Not so much because I thought it'd be a favorite card, but it really, this card comes back to when I think of this deck, this particular card comes back to my mind quite a bit, and it's because there's something about it that just really conveys the emotion. Here it is. One of my favorite cards of this deck is the Six of Swords. And, you know, you can see the cat is looking at whatever they're running from, and it's a full moon. You know, it's just such an amazing kind of like retreat or moving, or just, you know, we've got to get to a better space kind of thing. We're no longer in the water energy. We're in that sword energy actually quite a bit. And what I really love is, you know, the cat and the person are both looking back for whatever they're running from, but they're running away. So I love this because I got this several times in readings, and it was really conveying how I felt that moment. Like, I've got to move on, but, you know, I'm looking behind me because I know what I'm leaving behind at that moment as well. And it's a time where, you know, when people talk about letting go and journeying, sometimes I hear it in this really, really cool manner of like, yes, and I embraced it. And sometimes I'm thinking, when I've had to move on or walk away from something or leave something, sometimes it's painful and it's scary, and I don't know what I'm moving towards. You know, I've just got to have that trust that it's going to get better. And this card for me really sometimes symbolizes that really, really well. Like, I'm hoping it's going to be good, but I'm not leaving in like that, you know, holding my head up high and victorious way. It's a little bit scary actually. So yeah, just really, really love this deck. It really it's helped me several times, and I think I'm going to be bringing it out again this year to use, because I don't like decks just sitting there, you know, and it's a deck that needs, it's a bit like a car. It needs to come around and be used again and again, you know. Okay, so that was September. Let's go into October. Now, this is my birthday month, and I had saved this deck for my birthday month. And of course, it being Samhain at the end of the month, and I am definitely a girl born a week before Halloween. So what more can you get? And I was born a few miles from Pendle. So how else can you get more witchy than that? It was the Darkwood Tarot. This is the book, of course, and it is by Sasha Graham, art by Abigail Larson. Now, this is a deck that I really, really wanted to work with for a long time, and I had my eye on it, and I snagged it up. Mass Market, another large Llewellyn box deck that you all know, very popular. Now, this deck, I did edge it in black. There you go. And yeah, and I found it a really, really interesting deck. I found the bodies, the thing that really caught my attention of this deck was the way that the bodies were poised and the lines and the angularness and of the cards. Now, some of the cards, like this Sun card, I loved. I really, really loved. But there were times when there were cards which frustrated me, like this, the Two of Pentacles. You know, I felt like, oh, sorry, this is the Four of Pentacles. I felt a little bit like more could have been done. And so I've got a bit of a mixed relationship with this deck. There were also times when I just found it difficult to read, and I really had to just, you know, I used the guidebook, which I think was quite good. You know, it's a story of a witch, and then you've got vampires in it. I mean, it's fantastic, basically. But I found sometimes myself really having to think about the meaning of the card a lot. And it just was not as clear as I would have liked it to have been. It is also the dark wood, and to be quite honest with you, I didn't feel myself in a dark wood environment. I felt it very much a liminal scape, liminal spaces environment, and I think that's because of the skies in this deck. The skies are really going between, you know, that kind of like lighter, twilight to darker twilight, that kind of thing. And so I found it a deck that was more kind of like that, kind of like a sunset, sunrise kind of deck. I don't know how else to put it, with some of the nighttime scenes there. But yeah, you know, it was just interesting. My relationship with the deck was not what I thought it would be. And so I've had to question that a little bit. Let me just switch on the light, by the way, an extra light, because I can see that the video is not going too well. Hold on a second. Ooh. I think that might help a little bit. Yeah, so yeah, I found that the liminal, and let me switch on this actually as well. See if that helps you. Yeah, it might do actually. Yeah, that's a lot better. Sorry about that, but there you go. So yeah, I found that some of the lighting on this, just not the lighting, sorry. Let me get my thoughts back together. Some of the cards in this deck just not confused me, but yeah, I just didn't find it as easy read as I wanted it to be, and I was quite disappointed actually, because I've been really looking forward to using it. It's called the Dark Wood. I'm someone that goes running in the woods all the time, especially in the dark, to be quite honest with you, which some people have been like, oh my God, like how can you go running in the woods in the dark? Well, it's just me. So yeah, I really, really wanted this to work out, and it was kind of like, So yeah, I mean, I love some of the cards. They really embrace me, who I am. I love the bodies in the card as well, because some of the bodies and their shapes are kind of like ones that I identify with. I've got a very, I can't remember the terminology for it, but my body structure is a bit quite angular and weird in that sense. But so I like the deck in the sense that it helps me embrace my own body structures in some ways. But you know, like this, the Three of Pentacles, I wasn't, you know, I wanted more, and in terms of the art, and so yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me, this deck. I did appreciate the fact that it's got these borders, and yet the scene bleeds into the borders, which I liked, you know, I did appreciate that. Okay, so moving on, and let's get to November. And November for me was, without a shadow of a doubt, it was the Forest of Enchantment. Yes. So this was my November deck, and this is why I said it was quite interesting. This was more of a shadow deck for me, or a dark deck, whatever you want to call it, than the Darkwood Tarot. And you wouldn't think so, right? Because it's a very fairy tale reminiscent. Now, it's by Linnea Weatherstone. Linnea Weatherstone is the creator, illustrated by Marilla Allwood. It's based upon forests, the Surrey forests in the county, which, you know, it's kind of like really reminiscent of like my own home. I'm more from the north, but yeah, I do identify with forests from the south as well. I mean, you know, England's not that huge. But yes, we do have these small little creeks and woodland areas. It's also the same, actually, very similar in Belgium, to be quite honest with you. It's a bit more flat in Belgium because of, yeah, where we are basically, whilst the UK has a lot more rolling hills. England has a lot more rolling hills in that sense. So, yeah, I really, really loved the beauty of this deck. What stood out for me in this deck was sometimes it had some questioning about how we're raised, what we think are our archetypes and so forth, in a way that really helped me to think a little bit deeper. I always believe that I don't ask the question once. It really becomes fruitful when I go back to the question. And the question I ask is sometimes more important than the answer. And so this deck made me ask again questions which I thought I'd ask myself, but from a different perspective. I don't know how else to put it. About archetypal energies, about how we're raised, how we see things, what we embrace, what we need to let go of. Sometimes the apathy in life, sometimes, you know, seeing the magic of union, sometimes knowing, you know, how to embrace emotions that are coming through. This deck strangely reminds me of the Chrysalis Tarot, but I found this deck easier in that sense when it comes to forest energy. And yeah, it's got this, I mean, this is Nine of Spells, right? So this is an example, just an example of just, you know, it's the same meaning, right? We're creating a defense, we're getting prepared, we're getting ready, I'm getting ready to stand up for what I believe in. I'm prepared to defend my ideas or my thoughts or my projects or whatever creativity, you know, I'm standing tall. But here she's making this sacred circle of protection. And I just think, you know, it's the same meaning, but just done in such a clever way, you know, with this forest energy coming through. And I appreciate the process that the artist has gone through to create this, you know. This is the Five of Moons, so of course, Five of Pentacles, you know, feeling like, you know, just not allowed to be a part of something, or isolation, ostracization. And yeah, I really, you know, this is the Chariot. So going forward, you know, and channeling that flow of energy. This is about channeling the flow of energy more than anything else. And yeah, and I really like also, you know, you'd have to sit with this deck, but there's lots of hidden faces and kind of like, I don't know how else to put it, but like hidden parts in it. So, and the other thing before I wrap up on this deck, I've spent actually a long time on this deck, but the other thing is that this deck, the cards, by the way, the illustrations are not much bigger than the illustrations that were done for the original illustrations. So, you know, that's a lot of work to get that fine detail in there. So, yeah, so this was the Forest of Enchantment. Now, out of the top 10 decks, the last one that I need to show you, by the way, for December is, of course, I've just done the review for it, so I'll just grab it now. Here we go. See the back of my head there. And it is, of course, the Animal Totem Tarot by Lisa Robertson. Yes, so I'm just going to do a quick flick through. This is another large Llewellyn box deck, so there seems to be a theme emerging. I do plan to do later this year, not in the early part of the year, but a whole video on large Llewellyn box decks, because I seem to go through them quite a bit. I edged mine in blue. These are the backs of the cards. This is by Lisa Robertson, art by Eugene Smith. It comes with a guidebook, and I have already just done a recent review of this, so you can find it on my channel. But just to say, this is a beautiful animal deck, and if you're new to animal decks and you want to try one and you don't want to spend money on an indie deck, this is it. I suggest this one. One of the great things about this deck is, of course, the fact that it's an all year round deck. It has animals from the wild, it has animals from like the farmyard, it has like city animals. Lisa Robertson really makes the effort to tie together the animal with the meaning of the card. There are prompts in there for journaling when it comes to how to apply the question to your business or to your family and to your relationships. There's just a lot of food for thought. You can pull one card in a day and use that as a journaling prompt for that day, and it's plenty. There's so much in there, and the guidebook is so good and instructive. I really enjoyed using this in December. It was perfect for that time. I've got quite often, you know, readings from this deck at the end of December for me to take a leap of faith. And I think it was really timely, right? Because I began this year with such a difficult period, and at the end of the year, it was like, okay, it's time to jump. It's time to go forward now. And you know, and I just really love it. I just really love it in that sense. So you see, we just saw the Six of Swords, right, in the Everyday Witch. And it was like, you know, the Everyday Witch was looking back, scared and worried about what she's fleeing. And then this Six of Swords is like, that animal, I can't remember what it is. It's like a flying bat, basically. It's a flying squirrel, that's what it is, leaping forward. So, you know, just these Llewellyn decks are just so amazing on so many levels, and there are mass market, so, you know, accessible in terms of pricing. Okay, so we are at 14 minutes. I'm so sorry about the length of this video. Let me now quickly go on to some of the extras, because these were decks that I used also in the year, but they weren't allocated to a month. Tarot of the She is my moon deck. I'm using her again for moon readings this year, so let's see how that works. I think this deck doesn't want to be put away. Every time I think about putting this deck away, it's almost like it looks at me like, no, I'm here for you. The images, I mean, this is by Emily Carding. The images are just very clear for me. The more time I spend with her, the more she is very, very clear in terms of what she's saying. I plan to get a second copy of the deck so that then I can just chop off the borders completely on this one. And then the second copy can serve me to help me realize which card is which as I'm learning them by rote. Because I love this deck so much. I want it to be completely borderless, actually. I'm praying, actually, somehow that this is a shift for publishing, that it becomes borderless and matte, and then I don't have to do anything, you know, I can just buy a second copy like that. It is a deck that I would love to have a backup copy of. I sometimes sit with her at night and just look at the images because I love the deck. Clear reader. I've spent a lot of time in Ireland, just as an FYI, so this deck just really brings back lovely memories as well, to be quite honest with you. I don't know, not memories so much, but there's an energy of the Fae, and I really tap into the Irish aspect, the energy from that part of the British Isles, and yeah, there's something about that energy that just, yeah, it draws me, and you know, this deck is just amazing. I don't know how else to put it. I think, again, it's a deck which probably has been well loved and well used by many, and I only began using it in 2020. No, it was in 2020 I used it a little bit, but it was in 2021 which I really bonded with it, and it has been a solid reader, and it's great for my moon readings. I don't know why I use this for my moon readings, but there you go. And she worked out quite well. And yeah, I'm using her again this year. What more can I say? Okay, so then moving swiftly on, what else do we have left? Okay, so here is a deck. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a way to put all of this because there's not much space left. Okay, so here is a deck that I used in October, and that is the Deviant Moon. Let's get it right this way around, by Patrick Valenza, mass market, easily available. FYI, before I forget, Patrick Valenza has published 500, not published, well, he has available 500 each of the Trionfi della Luna illustrated, one as the parchment edition, the other as the paradoxical. So if you're interested in getting a copy of the Trionfi della Luna illustrated, the pips have been illustrated, this is it basically. So check out his website. Also, he's on Etsy. If you're in the EU, of course, it works out cheaper for us to order from Etsy. So yeah, so here is though the mass market of the Deviant Moon Tarot. Absolutely love it. I fell in love with this deck. I think it was in September already, September and October. I used her when I was doing some, what I was doing was, I think in one of the months, I did this activity with Boho Tarot, with Dawn Michelle of Boho Tarot, where she did some prompts. I think it was in October, coming towards Samhain, or was it September? I can't remember, but we did some prompts, and we could, you know, we could use any deck basically. And this was on Dawn Michelle Boho Tarot's Facebook group, and I used this deck for that, and I loved using it. It was just such a clear reader. There was times when this deck actually not made me cry, but like it brought up some parts of like the part of me that just really has struggled with life overall. I don't know how else to put it. And it just kind of like allowed me to feel a little bit more human. That's the best way I can put it. So yeah, this is a fantastic deck, and I think she's going to be out in use this year. If not her, then definitely the Trionfi della Luna illustrated, which I am getting a copy of myself as well. Okay, moving swiftly on, another deck that I just want to mention quickly, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up because this video is so long. So sorry, is the Seers Tarot. I use this, of course, as you've all seen, for my Vlogmas. I used it to help answer some of the questions that Papa Squirrel had set for Vlogmas last year, which was really fun to do. Got to know many people from the community when I did it as well. And yeah, this is a beautiful reader. Look at this deck. I mean, yeah, she's a great deck. This is the mass market. It's the Light Seers by Chris Ann, published by Hay House. Very readily, easily available. It is such an easy deck, but it's not really quite a but how can I put it? It's an easy deck that's very cleverly done, and I appreciate that because that's hard work, basically. So I mean, look at the death card here. I mean, you know, life within death. I mean, how else? I mean, it's not scary, but yeah, it is confronting because of that hooded figure, you know. So yeah, it's choices, again, choices, and she's taken the time to illustrate the different options of the choices, which I appreciate. See, that one's got a skull on there. And then here we go, here's the snake coming out of one of them. Here is the flow of water, energy and life. Here is the, I mean, just, you know, I appreciate it when the Seven of Cups is properly illustrated, basically. Here we go, King, this is the Knight of Wands. So it's a female Knight of Wands, very Sagittarian, as you can see there. So, you know, Chris Ann has just done an amazing job, and very easy. One of my favorite Six of Cups. And of course, as I've mentioned before, I take my 5, 6, 7 of Cups very seriously, given my Scorpio side. The Devil, one of my favorite cards of all, of all of the major arcana. Of course, it's the Devil. Like that there. And yeah, I mean, it's a deck that gives very clear readings. I don't know how else to put it. It's a deck full of vitality and clarification and musings. And she was a joy to work with for Vlogmas. And I don't know when I'm going to use her this year, but I'm pretty sure she will be out and about. This is a deck also that I need to bond with. There are some decks that request that I bond with them and before I use them. And I have a system that increasingly has become important to me of how I open and close with a deck, which I'm not talking about just 1 or 2 readings. I mean, when I go into a period of use of a deck, I go through an opening kind of like ceremony or ritual. Ritual is a better word. And I go through a closing ritual now as well. And I think that the deck likes it and I like it too. So yeah, so I do personify my decks, as you probably notice, but I do need to go through that with this deck as well. She does request it, and she can be quite sharp sometimes, but for the greater good. That's the best way I can put it. So with that, I'm going to end on the Queen of Swords in this deck, and I'm going to end this video soon because we are getting quite long. There will be a separate Oracle 2021 decks video at some point. But I just want to say thank you to Nina from Shuffle Tarot for doing this tag in the first place. I've enjoyed just going through some of my 2021 decks. There are more, but you know, I'm just going to stop there because yeah, it's long enough anyway. These are the memorable ones that I think walk through quite a bit throughout the year, and yeah, and I've had an interesting year with tarot in 2021. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you all soon, and have a lovely weekend. Take care now. Bye.